The lazy rich myth. Why doing less creates more wealth. You work 60 hours a week while your neighbor works 20, yet he's worth 10 times more than you. What if everything you learned about success is backwards? The hardest workers rarely get rich. The smartest ones do. Billionaires sleep 8 hours while broke people brag about 4. Why does effort punish some people but reward others? What do the wealthy know about leverage that you don't? How did doing less become the ultimate wealth hack? This isn't about laziness. It's about precision. You're about to unlearn the hustle trap and rebuild wealth from a completely different blueprint. Picture this moment in your own life. You're at your desk at 9 p.m. again. Your spouse stopped asking when you'll be home. Your kids know your laptop better than your face. You tell yourself it's temporary, that you're building something, that sacrifice today means freedom tomorrow. But tomorrow never comes. The promotion arrives with more work, not more time. The raise gets swallowed by lifestyle inflation. You're running faster on a treadmill that only speeds up. Meanwhile, someone you went to college with just posted vacation photos from Bali. Their 3rd trip this year. You know they don't work harder than you. In fact, you're pretty sure they barely work at all. The resentment burns. You tell yourself they must have gotten lucky, inherited money, or found some shortcut you missed. But what if the real difference isn't luck or inheritance? What if they simply learned something about wealth that you're still missing? Here's what nobody tells you about money. The system you're operating in was designed to keep you busy, not to make you rich. Every productivity hack, every morning routine, every hustle harder message you've absorbed since childhood is part of an economic engine that needs your labor more than it needs your freedom. You've been taught that wealth comes from effort, that income reflects hard work, that success requires sacrifice. These aren't truths. They're programming. The wealthy operate from a completely different playbook. They don't trade time for money because they understand that time is the only truly non-renewable resource. They build systems that work while they sleep. They obsess over leverage, not labor. They make strategic decisions to do less, not more, because they've figured out that wealth accumulates in the space between frantic activity and intentional design. This audiobook will dismantle everything you think you know about building wealth. You'll discover why your work ethic might be your biggest liability, how doing less can generate more income than doing more, and what it actually takes to build the kind of wealth that doesn't require your constant presence. This isn't a book about being lazy in the traditional sense. It's about being ruthlessly efficient, strategically selective, and intelligently designed in how you pursue financial freedom. Over the next several hours, you'll meet people who've cracked the code. The real estate investor who manages 200 properties while working 10 hours a month. The course creator who built a product 3 years ago that still generates $50,000 monthly. The CEO who fired himself from his own company and watched revenue double. These aren't fantasies. They're blueprints you can follow. But first, you need to understand why you're stuck. You need to see the trap you're in with clear eyes before you can escape it. So let's start at the beginning, with the lie that's been sold to you since childhood about hard work and its relationship to wealth. The hustle trap is everywhere. It's in every motivational post telling you to rise and grind. It's in every interview where a billionaire credits their success to outworking everyone else, conveniently leaving out the inheritance, the connections, or the timing that actually made the difference. It's in your parents' voices telling you that nothing good comes easy, that you have to pay your dues, that success requires suffering. This narrative has roots that stretch back centuries. During the Industrial Revolution, factory owners needed workers who would show up on time and labor for 12 hours without complaint. They couldn't just force compliance, so they built an ideology around it. Hard work became a moral virtue. Laziness became a sin. The Protestant work ethic transformed labor from a necessity into an identity. Fast forward to today, and the mythology has only intensified. Hustle culture dominates social media. Entrepreneurs brag about their 4 a.m. wake-up calls and their ability to function on minimal sleep. The implicit message is clear. If you're not exhausted, you're not serious. If you have free time, you're not committed. If you're not constantly busy, you're falling behind. But here's what this narrative deliberately obscures. Effort and outcomes have a much weaker correlation than anyone wants to admit. The janitor working 3 jobs is putting in more hours than the hedge fund manager, but their net worth exists in completely different universes. The single mother juggling childcare and 2 part-time positions is displaying incredible work ethic, yet she's living paycheck to paycheck. Meanwhile, someone who inherited an apartment building collects rent checks without lifting a finger. You might argue those are extreme examples, But the pattern holds even when you control for advantages. Take two college graduates with similar degrees and starting positions. One becomes obsessed with appearing busy. They're first to arrive, last to leave, always responding to emails within minutes, taking on every project offered. The other is more selective. They focus on high-impact work, protect their time ruthlessly, and build relationships with key decision-makers. 10 years later, the selective worker is earning 3 times more while working fewer hours. Why? Because employers and markets don't actually reward effort. They reward results, and results rarely come from frantic activity. They come from strategic thinking, relationship building, skill development, and positioning yourself in places where your labor creates outsized value. The busy worker is optimizing for the appearance of productivity. The selective worker is optimizing for actual impact. Let me introduce you to Marcus. He graduated with an engineering degree and immediately joined a prestigious consulting firm. The culture there was brutal. 100-hour weeks were standard. All-nighters were badges of honor. Marcus dove in completely. He wanted to prove himself, to show he could handle anything. For 3 years, he sacrificed everything. His health deteriorated. His relationship ended. He stopped seeing friends. But he told himself it was worth it because he was learning so much and building his career. Then Marcus met Claire at an industry conference. She'd graduated the same year from a similar program. But instead of joining a big firm, she'd started freelancing immediately. She worked with 3 to 4 clients at a time, charged premium rates, and maintained strict boundaries about her availability. She worked roughly 25 hours per week. When Marcus calculated her hourly rate and compared it to his own, factoring in all his unpaid overtime, he realized she was earning nearly 4 times what he made per hour. Her annual income was 60% higher than his despite working half the time. The conversation shifted something in Marcus. He started asking different questions. Not how can I work harder, but how can I work smarter? Not how do I do more, but how do I create more value per hour invested? Within 6 months, he'd left the consulting firm and started his own practice. He took Claire's advice about pricing, positioning, and saying no to low-value work. 2 years later, his income had doubled and his work hours had been cut in half. What changed wasn't Marcus's intelligence or his work ethic. What changed was his understanding of how wealth actually works. He stopped playing the game of hours logged and started playing the game of value created. He stopped optimizing for his employer's goals and started optimizing for his own. He stopped accepting the premise that more effort automatically leads to more reward. This is the first crack in the hustle trap. Recognizing that the relationship between work and wealth is not what you've been taught. Effort matters, sure, but only when it's directed at the right targets with the right leverage. Otherwise, you're just spinning your wheels faster, creating the illusion of progress while staying fundamentally stuck. Think about your own situation for a moment. How many hours did you work last week? Now think about what percentage of those hours actually moved you closer to financial freedom. Not what percentage made your boss happy or kept you feeling busy, but what percentage genuinely built wealth. For most people, the honest answer is somewhere between 5 and 20%. The rest is maintenance, busy work, performance theater, or tasks that could be automated or eliminated entirely. The attention economy has made this problem worse. Every company on the planet is competing for your focus because attention translates to money. Social media platforms want you scrolling. Streaming services want you binging. News outlets want you clicking. Productivity apps want you optimizing. And underneath all of it is an economic model that profits from your exhaustion and distraction. When you're tired, you make worse decisions. You're more susceptible to impulse purchases. You're less likely to question the status quo. You accept mediocre wages because you're too drained to negotiate or look for better opportunities. Your exhaustion is profitable for everyone except you. The wealthy understand this instinctively. They guard their attention and energy like precious resources because they are precious resources. They don't fill every... So what does this mean for you practically? It means you need to audit your life with ruthless honesty. Take 1 week and track every hour. Not just work hours, but everything. Sleep, meals, commute, email, meetings, actual focused work, social media, household tasks, everything. Categorize each hour into one of 3 buckets. Wealth-building activities that directly increase your income or assets. Necessary maintenance that keeps your life functioning but doesn't build wealth. And wealth-draining activities that actively move you away from financial freedom. Most people are shocked by what this exercise reveals. They discover they're spending 40 to 50 hours per week on activities that don't build wealth at all. They're in meetings that could have been emails. They're doing tasks that could be delegated for $20 an hour, while their own time is theoretically worth $200. They're optimizing their morning routine instead of optimizing their income streams. Once you see the truth of how you're actually spending your time, you can start making different choices. But before we get to solutions, you need to understand the alternative framework, the lazy rich formula that flips everything on its head. The term lazy rich sounds like an oxymoron or an insult, depending on your programming. But let's redefine it precisely. Lazy in this context doesn't mean unmotivated or inactive. It means ruthlessly efficient. It means refusing to confuse motion with progress. It means being so clear about what actually matters that you can eliminate or delegate everything else without guilt. The lazy rich formula rests on 3 pillars: leverage, systems, and strategic laziness. Let's break down each one. Leverage is the multiplier that separates linear income from exponential wealth. Without leverage, you trade 1 hour of work for 1 hour of pay. You're stuck in a direct exchange where more income requires more time. But with leverage, 1 hour of work can generate 10 hours of value, or 100, or 10,000. The returns become disconnected from the time invested. There are 4 types of leverage available to you. The first is financial leverage, using money to make money. This is what real estate investors do when they put 20% down on a property and control an asset worth 5 times their initial investment. This is what business owners do when they reinvest profits into marketing that generates more revenue. Financial leverage is powerful, but it requires capital to start. The second type is labor leverage, using other people's time and skills to multiply your output. When you hire an assistant, you're buying back your own time. When you build a team, you're creating capacity beyond what you could ever achieve alone. Labor leverage is how businesses scale. It's how one person can oversee operations that generate millions in revenue. The third type is technology leverage, using software and automation to handle repetitive tasks. An email sequence can nurture thousands of leads simultaneously. A well-designed app can serve millions of users without your direct involvement. Technology leverage has become incredibly accessible in the past decade, democratizing tools that used to require massive investment. The fourth and most powerful type is media leverage, using content and intellectual property to reach massive audiences at minimal marginal cost. A book can sell 1 million copies. A course can educate 100,000 students. A podcast can influence millions of listeners. Once created, these assets can generate income indefinitely with minimal ongoing effort. The wealthy don't just use one type of leverage. They stack them. They create a course using technology leverage, build a team to market it using labor leverage, invest the profits using financial leverage, and amplify the whole operation using media leverage. Each layer multiplies the others, creating compound effects that seem magical from the outside but are actually quite systematic. Now let's talk about systems. A system is any repeatable process that generates predictable results. The human body is a system. Digestion happens automatically. Your heart beats without conscious effort. Blood circulates, hormones regulate, cells regenerate, all without your active management. Imagine if you had to manually control each of these functions. You'd never have time for anything else. Your wealth operates the same way. When everything requires your direct intervention, you hit a ceiling. You become the bottleneck. But when you build systems, wealth generation becomes automatic. The system runs whether you're actively working or not. Think about a rental property. Once you've purchased it, found good tenants, and set up automatic rent collection, the asset generates income monthly without requiring your presence. Compare that to a job where you have to show up every day to get paid. The rental property is a system. The job is manual labor. Or consider an online business with a well-designed sales funnel. Traffic comes in through content marketing. Visitors land on a page that captures their email. An automated sequence nurtures them over several weeks, providing value and building trust. Eventually, they're presented with an offer, some percentage purchase. The money hits your account. You might touch this system once a quarter to optimize it, but otherwise it runs on autopilot. That's systems thinking. The transition from active income to systems-based income is the most important shift you can make. It's the difference between selling your time and selling your assets. It's the difference between earning only when you work and earning even when you rest. Strategic laziness is the mindset that ties this all together. It's the commitment to optimize for outcomes, not activity. It's the discipline to ask, before every task, is this the highest and best use of my time right now? It's the courage to do nothing when nothing is the right answer. Strategic laziness means letting opportunities pass if they don't align with your leverage strategy. It means ignoring your inbox when you're in deep work mode. It means going for a walk instead of attending a meeting that should have been an email. It means sleeping 8 hours instead of bragging about functioning on 5. The strategically lazy person looks unproductive to someone trapped in hustle culture. They're not always busy. They don't respond immediately to every message. They take vacations without checking email. They work in focused sprints rather than constant marathons. But when you measure their results instead of their activity, they're dramatically outperforming their busy peers. Here's a simple test to identify whether an activity aligns with strategic laziness. Ask yourself, if I do nothing here, what happens? Sometimes the answer is disaster, which means it's genuinely important. But often the answer is nothing happens, or someone else handles it, or the problem resolves itself. Those are opportunities to practice strategic inaction. The wealthy have mastered this. They know that most things on their plate aren't actually critical. They've trained themselves to distinguish between urgent and important, between busy work and wealth work. They've built the psychological resilience to let balls drop without panic because they know which balls actually matter. Let me tell you about Priya. She started a marketing agency 5 years ago and quickly became the bottleneck. Every client wanted to work directly with her. Every project required her approval. Every decision landed on her desk. She was working 70 hours a week and burning out fast. Her income was good, around $200,000 a year, but she had no life outside work. A business coach asked her a simple question: what would happen if you disappeared for a month? Priya's immediate reaction was panic. Everything would fall apart. But then the coach pushed further. Really? Would every single thing collapse, or would your team figure some things out? Would every client actually leave, or would most of them be fine with your senior staff? This question planted a seed. Priya started an experiment. She took a 2-week vacation and made herself genuinely unavailable. No email, no calls, no check-ins. She told her team they had to handle everything. She was terrified. But when she came back, the agency was fine. Actually better than fine. Her team had made decisions faster without waiting for her input. They'd solved problems creatively. Client satisfaction had actually increased because response times improved. That experience changed Priya's entire approach. She realized she'd been operating from ego and fear, not necessity. Over the next year, she systematically extracted herself from day-to-day operations. She hired a general manager to run the team. She created decision-making frameworks so others could act autonomously. She shifted her role to strategy, business development, and team development. Her work hours dropped to 20 per week. Her income increased to $400,000 because she finally had time to focus on growth instead of execution. That's the power of strategic laziness. Priya didn't become less ambitious. She became more intelligent about where to direct her energy. She stopped doing things that made her feel important but didn't actually build wealth. She embraced the uncomfortable truth that her constant involvement was holding the business back, not propping it up. Now think about your own situation. What are you holding on to that you don't need to hold? What decisions could others make if you gave them frameworks and authority? What tasks are you doing because you've always done them, not because they're the best use of your time today? Where are you confusing your self-worth with your busyness? These questions don't have comfortable answers. They require looking at your habits and identity with clear eyes. But until you're willing to be strategically lazy, to let go of work that feels important but isn't, you'll stay trapped in the time-for-money exchange that caps your wealth potential. Let's talk about time itself now, because this is where everything connects. Time is the ultimate non-renewable resource. You can make more money, you can build more skills, you can create more opportunities, but you cannot create more time. Every hour you spend is gone forever. The question isn't whether you're spending time, it's whether you're investing it wisely or wasting it unconsciously. Most people think in hourly terms because that's how they're paid. $10 per hour, $50 per hour, $100 per hour. This framework makes sense for employees, but it's catastrophic for wealth builders. When you think hourly, you stay trapped in linear income. More hours equals more money, fewer hours equals less money. There's no leverage, no multiplication, no escape from the hamster wheel. The wealthy think in completely different terms. They think about return on time invested. If I spend 10 hours building a system that generates $1,000 a month indefinitely, that's not $100 per hour. That's $100 per hour initially, then infinite return as the system continues producing. The same 10 hours could be worth $10,000 or $100,000 over time. This shift from hourly thinking to ROI thinking is fundamental. It changes what you say yes to and what you decline. It makes you obsessive about leverage and systems because those are the only paths to exponential returns on time. It makes you protective of your hours in a way that hourly workers rarely are. Consider 2 calendars. The first belongs to a typical middle-class professional. It's packed from morning to evening with meetings, calls, tasks, errands, obligations. There's no white space. Every moment is allocated. This person feels productive because they're constantly busy, constantly making progress on something. But when you audit what's on that calendar, most of it is low-value activity. Meetings that could be emails, tasks that could be delegated, obligations that serve others' priorities, not their own. The second calendar belongs to a wealthy entrepreneur. It has large blocks of unscheduled time, a 2-hour morning block for deep work, another block in the afternoon, maybe 1 or 2 high-value meetings per day, maximum. Lots of white space. To the busy professional, this looks lazy. It looks like the entrepreneur isn't doing enough. But that white space is where the magic happens. It's where strategy gets developed, where opportunities get evaluated, where creative solutions emerge. The entrepreneur isn't less productive, they're more selectively productive. Time blocking is the technique that enables this. Instead of letting your calendar fill up reactively based on other people's requests, you proactively block time for your highest leverage activities. Deep work gets blocked first. Strategic thinking time gets blocked. Exercise and recovery get blocked. Only then do you allow meetings and collaborative work to fill in around those priorities. This requires saying no, a lot. You'll disappoint people. You'll seem less available, less eager to please, but you're not optimizing for being liked. You're optimizing for building wealth. And wealth requires concentrated effort on high-value activities, which requires protecting large chunks of time from interruption. There's a framework I want you to learn called the $10, $100, $1,000, $10,000 activity matrix. Every task you do can be categorized by what it's actually worth per hour. Checking email obsessively? That's a $10 per hour activity. You could hire a virtual assistant to do it for that rate. Client service work in your business? Maybe $100 per hour. You could train someone to handle it. Strategic partnership development? That might be a $1,000 or $10,000 per hour activity. Because one good partnership could generate hundreds of thousands in revenue. The mistake most people make is spending their time on a mixture of all these activities without intentionality. They'll spend an hour on $10 work, then an hour on $1,000 work, treating them as equally important. But they're not. If you're capable of $1,000 per hour work, every hour you spend on $10 work is costing you $990 in opportunity cost. Ruthlessly audit your activities through this lens. What are you doing that's $10 or $100 per hour work? Who could do those things instead? What are your $1,000 or $10,000 activities? How can you spend more time there? This single framework, applied consistently, can transform your income within months, because you'll start making radically different choices about where your attention goes. Let me introduce you to a concept called your true hourly rate. This is different from what you think you earn per hour. To calculate it, take your annual net income and divide it by all the hours you spend on work-related activities. Not just the hours you're paid for, but the commute, the evening email checks, the weekend thinking about Monday, the professional development you squeeze in, all of it. For most people, this calculation is sobering. Someone who thinks they earn $50 per hour because they make $100,000 a year for 2,000 work hours is actually earning closer to 35 or 40 when you count all the invisible work time. Someone who's salaried and working 60-hour weeks instead of 40 is taking a massive pay cut that doesn't show up on their paycheck. But here's where it gets really interesting. Imagine you spend 5 hours per week on activities that aren't directly compensated, but that build assets or systems that will generate future income. From an hourly perspective, those hours pay nothing right now. But from a wealth-building perspective, they might be worth more than all your other hours combined. You're investing time instead of selling it. This is why the wealthy are obsessed with what they call free time, though it's not really free. It's time that's not spoken for, not obligated, not traded away. It's time they can choose to invest in high-leverage activities or simply rest and recharge. That optionality, that sovereignty over their hours, is the richest commodity they possess. Think about your own time budget right now. How many hours per week are truly yours to allocate? Not hours you steal from sleep or family, but hours you've intentionally designed into your life for building wealth on your terms. For most people, the honest answer is 0 or close to it. Their entire time budget is already spoken for by their job, their obligations, their habits, their reactivity. They're time broke even if they're not money broke yet. Breaking free from time poverty requires the same discipline as breaking free from financial poverty. You have to spend less than you earn, except with time you have to commit less time than you have available. You have to build a time surplus the same way you build a financial surplus. You do this by systematically eliminating, delegating, or automating low-value activities until you have blocks of uncommitted time that you can invest strategically. Let me share a scenario that illustrates this. David ran a small consulting practice. He was good at his work and charged decent rates, but he was completely tapped out. 50 billable hours per week, plus another 15 in admin, business development, and overhead. He wanted to scale, but couldn't see how. Every client required his personal attention. Every new client meant more hours he didn't have. His breaking point came when he turned down a large opportunity because he simply didn't have capacity. That night, unable to sleep, he did the math on his true hourly rate. After accounting for all his actual work time, he was earning about $65 per hour. Meanwhile, he was spending at least 10 hours per week on activities that someone else could do for $25 per hour. Scheduling, invoicing, basic client communication, research. Another 5 hours per week went to tasks that could be automated entirely with better systems. David made a decision. He hired a virtual assistant for 20 hours per week. He invested in practice management software that automated his invoicing and client communication. He created templates and standard operating procedures for everything repetitive. The first month was rough. He had to train the assistant, learn the software, systematize his processes. It felt like more work, not less. But by month 3, everything clicked. He'd bought back 15 hours per week. His effective hourly rate jumped to $120 because he was only doing high-value work. He took on 2 new clients using his newfound capacity. His income increased by 40% while his total work hours stayed the same. But the real transformation happened in month 6. David realized he still had capacity. So instead of taking on more clients, he spent his reclaimed time building a self-paced online course teaching his methodology. It took about 80 hours to create. He launched it at $997. In the first year, it generated $170,000 in additional revenue with minimal ongoing effort. That's over $2,000 per hour for the time he invested creating it. This is what happens when you escape time poverty. You stop trading hours for dollars and start investing hours in assets. You build things that compound. You create leverage. You break the linear relationship between time and income. Now I want you to imagine something. Close your eyes if you're in a safe place to do so, or just soften your gaze. Picture yourself 5 years from now. In this future, you've successfully implemented everything we're talking about. You've built systems, leveraged your time, created assets that work while you sleep. What does your typical Tuesday look like? You wake up naturally, no alarm, because you've designed your life around your natural rhythms. You check your phone and see that your automated systems generated $3,000 while you slept. You have 1 client meeting scheduled, but it's with someone you genuinely enjoy working with on a project that excites you. The meeting is at 10, giving you 2 hours for your morning routine. Exercise, breakfast with your family, maybe some reading or creative thinking. The meeting is productive and energizing, not draining. You're the expert, the advisor. You're not doing the implementation work anymore. That's handled by your team or your systems. You provide strategic direction, ask good questions, and leave everyone better off than when you arrived. The whole thing takes 90 minutes, including prep. After the meeting, you have lunch and then 3 hours of protected time. No calls, no interruptions. You spend this time on whatever feels most valuable. Maybe you're writing content for your media leverage. Maybe you're evaluating a new investment opportunity. Maybe you're mapping out the next quarter's strategy. Or maybe you're learning a skill that intrigues you. It's your time, genuinely yours, to invest however you choose. By mid-afternoon, you're done with work. Not because you hit your arbitrary 40 hours for the week, but because you accomplished what mattered. You spend the rest of the day however you want. With family, on a hobby, at the gym, with friends. You're present for it because you're not mentally still at work. The systems are running. The assets are performing. Your team has what they need. You can genuinely disconnect. This isn't fantasy. This is what strategic laziness, proper leverage, and good systems make possible. But you can't get there by working harder in your current paradigm. You get there by fundamentally redesigning how you approach wealth creation. Open your eyes. How did that vision feel? What emotions came up? Excitement? Skepticism? Longing? Whatever you felt, that's useful data. If it felt impossible, you've got mental barriers to dissolve. If it felt exciting but distant, you need a clearer bridge from here to there. If it felt close, you're probably further along than you realize and just need permission to accelerate. Let's shift now to talk about assets, because this is the engine that makes everything else possible. The rich buy assets. The poor buy liabilities they think are assets. This distinction, more than anything else, separates wealth from poverty. An asset is anything that puts money in your pocket without requiring your active labor. A rental property that generates positive cash flow after all expenses is an asset. A business that runs without your daily involvement is an asset. A stock portfolio that pays dividends is an asset. Intellectual property that generates royalties is an asset. A course or book that sells passively is an asset. A liability is anything that takes money out of your pocket. Your car is a liability. It costs insurance, maintenance, gas, depreciation. Your primary residence is usually a liability. It costs property taxes, insurance, maintenance, mortgage interest. Yes, it might appreciate, but it's not putting money in your pocket monthly. Your boat, your wardrobe, your subscriptions, these are all liabilities. The confusion happens because we've been taught that ownership itself is wealth. Own a house, own a car, own things. But ownership of liabilities doesn't make you rich. It makes you cash poor and asset rich in non-performing assets. Real wealth comes from owning things that generate income. Most people spend their entire careers earning active income from labor and using that income to buy liabilities. They get a raise and upgrade their car. They get a bonus and renovate their house. They're accumulating things but not building wealth. The monthly costs of maintaining their lifestyle rise in lockstep with their income, keeping them perpetually on the hamster wheel. The wealthy do the opposite. They minimize personal liabilities and maximize income-producing assets. They drive normal cars, live in modest houses relative to their income, and avoid spending on depreciating goods. Not because they're cheap, but because they're capital efficient. They want their money working for them, not sitting in a garage depreciating. Here's the fundamental shift you need to make. Every dollar you earn has to be assigned a job. It either goes toward necessary living expenses, toward building assets, or toward lifestyle spending. Most people have the ratios backwards. 70% lifestyle, 20% necessary expenses, 10% saving or investing. The wealthy flip it. 40% or more goes toward asset acquisition, 30% toward necessary expenses, and 30% or less toward lifestyle. This doesn't mean living like a monk. It means being intentional. It means asking, before every purchase, is this buying my freedom or delaying it? Is this an asset or a liability? Is this investment or consumption? Let me tell you about Rachel. She was a middle school teacher earning $55,000 per year. Not wealthy by any standard, but comfortable. Rachel lived frugally, not because she had to, but because she'd learned about asset building. She kept her housing cost to 20% of her income by renting a small apartment. She drove a used car she'd paid cash for. She didn't have cable or expensive hobbies. Her coworkers thought she was weird, but Rachel was investing 40% of her income, about $22,000 per year. She split it between low-cost index funds and saving for real estate. By year 3, she had enough for a down payment on a small duplex. She lived in one unit and rented the other. The rent covered most of her mortgage. She continued saving aggressively. Every few years, Rachel repeated the process. Another duplex, then a fourplex, then another. She used the rental income to qualify for more loans. She lived modestly, but her asset base grew substantially. 15 years later, Rachel owned 6 properties with a combined value of nearly $2 million and monthly rental income of about $12,000 after all expenses. Her teaching salary was now $70,000, but her real income was over $200,000 counting the rental cash flow. At that point, Rachel quit teaching. Not because she hated it, but because she didn't have to do it anymore. She was financially free at 42 years old. Her assets generated more than enough to live on. She chose to work part-time at a nonprofit she cared about, but it was a choice, not a necessity. Rachel's story isn't flashy. There was no viral business, no tech startup exit, no inheritance, just consistent, disciplined asset acquisition over 15 years. She traded current consumption for future freedom. While her peers were upgrading apartments, buying new cars, and taking expensive vacations, Rachel was buying her life back one property at a time. What assets could you start acquiring? Maybe you don't have capital for real estate yet, but could you start with index funds? Could you build intellectual property through content creation? Could you start a side business with low startup costs? Could you buy dividend-paying stocks? The specific vehicle matters less than the commitment to building income-producing assets instead of accumulating liabilities. There's a concept in finance called the Rule of 72. If you want to know how long it takes an investment to double, divide 72 by the annual return rate. At 8% returns, your money doubles in 9 years. At 12%, it doubles in 6 years. This might not sound exciting, but think about the implications over time. If you invest $10,000 at age 25 and it doubles every 9 years, you have $20,000 at 34, $40,000 at 43, $80,000 at 52, and $160,000 at 61. You put in $10,000 and got back 16 times that amount just by letting compound returns do their work. Now imagine if you added $10,000 every year instead of just once. The numbers become staggering. This is why the wealthy are obsessed with compound returns. They understand that given enough time, even moderate returns create extraordinary wealth. They understand that one asset earning $10,000 per year that gets reinvested becomes 2 assets, then 4, then 8. The growth becomes exponential, not linear. But you can't benefit from compounding if you're spending everything you earn. You can't build assets if you're trapped in the consumption cycle. You need to create a gap between earnings and spending, then direct that gap toward income-producing investments. The size of the gap determines how quickly you achieve financial freedom. A 20% gap gets you there eventually. A 50% gap gets you there in half the time. This brings us to delegation, one of the most powerful but underutilized wealth-building tools available. Your income ceiling is directly limited by your delegation ceiling. If you can't or won't delegate, you can only earn what you personally can produce. If you master delegation, you can earn based on what your entire team produces, which scales infinitely. The psychological block around delegation is massive for most people. You tell yourself that you're the only one who can do the task properly, that it's faster to do it yourself than to train someone else, that delegating is expensive or risky, that giving up control means things will fall apart. These are all fear-based rationalizations that keep you trapped in the time for money exchange. Let's address each objection directly. First, you're probably not the only one who can do the task properly. You might be better at it than others right now, but that's because you've done it 100 times. Someone else can get to 80% of your quality with training, and 80% is usually good enough. Perfection is the enemy of scale. Second, it's not faster to do it yourself when you measure properly. Yes, the first time you delegate takes longer because of training time, but after that, you never have to do the task again. Someone who spends 5 hours training on a task they used to spend 1 hour weekly doing breaks even after 5 weeks. After that, it's pure time savings forever. Third, delegating isn't as expensive as you think, especially when you factor in opportunity cost. If your time is worth $100 per hour, but you're spending 10 hours weekly on tasks someone could do for $25 per hour, you're losing $750 per week by not delegating. That's nearly $40,000 per year in lost value. Hiring help isn't an expense, it's an investment with obvious positive return. Fourth, things might not fall apart if you give up control. They might actually improve. When you're the bottleneck on every decision, you slow everything down. When others have autonomy and clear guidelines, they move faster. And even if quality dips slightly in some areas, the trade-off of having your time back for high-value work is worth it. The key to successful delegation is creating systems and standard operating procedures first. You can't just hand off a task and hope for the best. You need to document how it should be done, what good looks like, what to do when problems arise, how to measure success. This upfront investment in systematization makes delegation smooth and effective. Think about your own task list right now. What are you doing that someone else could do? Admin work, social media posting, customer service, bookkeeping, basic writing or research, scheduling, data entry. For almost everyone, there are at least 5 to 10 hours per week of delegable work. That's 5 to 10 hours you could reclaim for high-leverage activities or rest. The path forward is simple. Make a list of everything you do regularly. Estimate how much time each task takes per week or month. Calculate what it would cost to hire someone else to do it at a reasonable market rate. Compare that cost to your true hourly rate. Anything where the delegation cost is less than 50% of your hourly rate is a candidate for immediate delegation. Start small. Don't try to delegate everything at once. Pick 1 or 2 tasks to offload this month. Hire a virtual assistant for a few hours per week to handle them. Get comfortable with training someone, giving feedback, and letting go of control. Once you see the benefits, delegation becomes easier psychologically, and you can scale up. Let me share another real scenario. This one involves 2 business owners, Jen and Michael. Both ran successful online businesses generating around $500,000 in annual revenue. Both felt maxed out on capacity. Jen was doing everything herself. She handled customer service, managed the tech stack, created all the content, did the marketing, oversaw operations. She was working 60-plus hours per week and couldn't see how to grow without working even more hours that didn't exist. Michael had systematized and delegated aggressively. He had a virtual assistant handling customer service and admin work. He had a content manager creating posts and newsletters from his outlines. He had a marketing contractor running ads. He had a bookkeeper handling finances. His team was 6 people, all part-time contractors, costing him about $8,000 per month total. Michael's work week was 25 hours. He focused exclusively on strategy, partnerships, and product development. Over the next 2 years, Jen's revenue stayed flat at $500,000. She was trapped. She couldn't grow because she had no time for growth activities. She couldn't delegate because she'd convinced herself she couldn't afford it, and no one else could do things her way. Michael's revenue grew to $1.2 million. The additional $700,000 in revenue cost him about $20,000 more in contractor expenses. His profit increased by nearly $500,000. His work hours actually decreased to 20 because he kept delegating more as revenue grew. He took month-long vacations twice a year while his business ran without him. The difference wasn't intelligence or market conditions. It was delegation. Jen remained the bottleneck. Michael built a business that could scale beyond his personal capacity. Who would you rather be? Now let's talk about automation and technology, the leverage that's become incredibly powerful in the past decade. Automation is like delegation, except you're delegating to software instead of people. Once set up, automated systems run without ongoing cost or management. They're the ultimate expression of build once, profit forever. Think about all the repetitive tasks in your business or work life. Sending reminder emails, following up with leads, posting to social media, generating invoices, collecting payments, scheduling appointments, answering frequently asked questions, updating spreadsheets. Each of these can be partially or fully automated with existing tools. The technology stack for automation is now accessible to anyone. Customer relationship management systems like HubSpot or Airtable can automate your entire sales process. Email marketing platforms like ConvertKit or MailChimp can nurture leads automatically. Scheduling tools like Calendly eliminate email tennis about meeting times. Payment processors like Stripe handle billing automatically. Chatbots can handle basic customer questions. Social media scheduling tools can post content automatically. The beauty of automation is that it has near zero marginal cost. Whether you're serving 10 customers or 10,000, the automated system handles it the same way. This is how online businesses can scale without proportionally scaling headcount. A course creator can serve 50,000 students with roughly the same infrastructure that served 500. Let me give you a concrete example. Imagine you sell a digital product. Without automation, every sale requires manual intervention. Customer emails you, you send them a payment link, they pay, you manually send them the product, they email with questions, you respond. 10 sales might take you 3 hours of work. With automation, the process looks different. Customer lands on your sales page, reads the copy, clicks buy now. Stripe processes the payment automatically. Your email platform immediately sends a welcome email with access credentials. The customer logs into your platform and accesses the product. A series of pre-written emails deliver over the next few weeks, providing additional value and answering common questions. A chatbot handles basic support questions. You never touch any of this unless there's an unusual issue. 10 sales or 1,000 sales take you the same amount of time, which is approximately 0. That's the power of automation. You build the system once, and it runs indefinitely with minimal maintenance. Your income becomes disconnected from your labor. You're no longer trading time for money. You're generating returns on a system you built in the past. The psychological shift here is significant. Many people resist automation because building systems feels like work without immediate payoff. It's easier to just manually handle things than to spend 3 hours setting up an automation. But that's short-term thinking. 3 hours spent building automation that saves you 1 hour per week breaks even in 3 weeks. After that, it's pure time savings forever. Over a year, you've saved 49 hours. Over 5 years, that's 260 hours. That 3-hour investment compounds massively over time. One particular model deserves special attention: subscription and recurring revenue businesses. This is automation applied to the revenue stream itself. Instead of making individual sales that require ongoing effort, you sell once and the customer pays monthly or annually thereafter. The income becomes predictable, compound, and scalable. Software as a service companies use this model. So do membership sites, subscription boxes, coaching programs with monthly billing, retainer-based services, and recurring consulting arrangements. The power is that customer acquisition happens once, but revenue continues. If you acquire a customer who pays $100 monthly and stays for 2 years, that single acquisition generates $2,400. The customer acquisition cost might be $100 or $200, but the lifetime value is 10 times that. Compare this to selling one-off products where you have to reacquire the customer for every purchase. The subscription model builds compound revenue. Each month's new customers layer on top of previous month's customers. If you acquire 50 customers per month at $100 monthly, month 1 is $5,000 in revenue, month 2 is $10,000, month 3 is $15,000. By month 12, assuming no churn, you're at $60,000 monthly recurring revenue from just 50 customers per month. This is why investors love subscription businesses. The revenue is predictable and grows systematically. It's why software companies can achieve such high valuations. They've automated the product, automated the delivery, and automated the revenue stream. It's the ultimate expression of lazy rich principles. Let's shift gears to talk about saying no, which might be the most important skill for wealth creation. Every yes is a no to something else. When you say yes to a low-value opportunity, you're saying no to a high-value one. When you say yes to someone else's priority, you're saying no to your own. The ability to decline, gracefully but firmly, is what protects your time and energy for what actually matters. The reason most people struggle with this is that saying no feels uncomfortable. It disappoints others. It might seem rude or unhelpful. It closes doors. But what you need to understand is that saying yes to everything is the same as having no strategy. If everything is important, nothing is important. You're just reactive, bouncing from request to request, never building toward your own vision. The wealthy have extremely short to-do lists because they're ruthlessly selective about what they commit to. They use frameworks like the hell yes or no filter. If an opportunity doesn't immediately strike them as a clear yes, as something they're excited about, they decline. If it's a maybe, it's a no. This might seem extreme, but it's effective. It ensures that everything they commit to is genuinely aligned with their goals and values. There's also the 90% rule. Rate every opportunity on a scale of 0 to 100. If it's not at least a 90, decline it. This forces you to be honest about lukewarm opportunities that you're only considering because they're good enough or because you feel obligated. Good enough is the enemy of great when it comes to time allocation. Let me tell you about James. He's a CEO who was drowning in commitments. 60 meetings per week, dozens of calls, constant context switching. He felt busy and important, but he knew the business wasn't moving forward strategically. Everything felt urgent, but nothing felt like progress. A mentor challenged him to audit his calendar and rate every meeting and commitment on a scale of 1 to 10 for strategic value. James was shocked by the results. Over half of his meetings scored below 6. They were status updates that could have been emails, routine check-ins that added little value, obligatory appearances at events that didn't move anything forward. He was spending 30 hours per week on activities that scored below 6 out of 10. James made a radical decision. He canceled or delegated every commitment that scored below 8. He went from 60 meetings per week to just 6. His team panicked at first, but James provided frameworks for decision-making so they didn't need his input on everything. He blocked his calendar for deep work on high-impact strategy. The results were dramatic. Within a quarter, the business hit targets that had been stagnant for a year. Revenue grew by 20%. Team morale improved because decisions happened faster without waiting for James. And James himself felt like a different person. He had energy again. He could think strategically instead of just reacting. He started sleeping better. The business grew and he worked less. That's the power of no. It creates space for yes to the right things, but it requires courage and discipline. You'll disappoint people. You'll miss some things, but you'll gain your life back. Think about your own commitments right now. How many of them are genuinely high value? How many are you doing out of obligation, guilt, or inability to decline? What would happen if you cut 50% of your commitments? Would the world end, or would you suddenly have time to build the wealth you say you want? Here's a practical exercise. For the next week, every time someone asks you for something or invites you to something, don't answer immediately. Buy yourself 24 hours by saying you need to check your calendar or think about it. Then actually evaluate the request against your priorities. If it's not clearly aligned with your wealth-building goals, decline. Notice what happens. Most of the time, nothing bad happens. People find other solutions or realize it wasn't that important after all. Learning to say no is also learning to say yes to yourself. You're claiming ownership of your time, your energy, your priorities. You're stating through your actions that your goals matter at least as much as everyone else's requests. This is an act of self-respect that's essential for wealth creation. Now let's talk about income stacking, the strategy of building multiple streams so you're not dependent on any single source. Relying on one income source, even a good one, is financially fragile. If that source disappears through job loss, business failure, or market shifts, you're in crisis. Multiple streams provide resilience and compound your total income faster than optimizing a single stream. Research on millionaires consistently shows they have an average of 7 income streams. These might include salary or business profit, rental income, dividend income, interest income, capital gains, royalties, and side businesses. You don't need 7 immediately, but moving from 1 to 3 or 4 streams should be a near-term goal. The key is to stack streams that complement rather than compete for your time. If you're employed, your base stream is your salary. You could add dividend income by investing savings. You could add rental income by house hacking a duplex. You could add royalty income by writing a book. None of these require you to trade more hours for money. They're leveraged streams that layer on top of your base. Let me tell you about Kenji. He was a software developer making $120,000 per year. Good income, but he was ambitious for more. Kenji started by investing heavily in dividend-paying index funds. Over 5 years, he built a portfolio generating about $10,000 annually in dividends. That's stream 2. Then Kenji created a technical course teaching other developers his specialty. He spent about 100 hours building it and launched it at $297. In the first year, it generated $30,000 in sales with minimal marketing. The second year brought $40,000 as word spread. That's stream 3. Kenji then bought a small rental property using a combination of savings and a loan. After all expenses, it generated about $6,000 per year in positive cash flow. That's stream 4. Finally, Kenji started doing paid consulting on weekends, about 1 client per month at $5,000 per project. That added another $60,000 annually. Stream 5. Kenji's base salary remained $120,000, but his total income had grown to $226,000. More importantly, if he lost his job, he'd still have over $100,000 in income from his other streams. He had options and security that single-income earners never have. The income stacking strategy works because each stream compounds the others. The consulting income accelerated his ability to invest in dividend stocks. The course profits funded the down payment on the rental property. The rental property's appreciation became equity he could leverage for more properties. Everything built on everything else. You might be thinking this sounds like a lot of work, but remember the frameworks we've discussed. Once set up, most of these streams run with minimal ongoing effort. The dividend stocks require 0 time beyond the initial investment. The course requires maybe 5 hours per month for customer support and updates. The rental property requires a few hours per month working with a property manager. The consulting is the only stream that trades time for money, and Kenji could eliminate it once his passive streams grew larger. What income streams could you add in the next year? Could you start investing if you're not already? Could you create a digital product? Could you buy a rental property or invest in real estate crowdfunding? Could you start a side business with low startup costs? Could you offer consulting or coaching? Could you build affiliate income through content? There are dozens of potential streams. Pick the ones that align with your skills, resources, and goals. The psychological benefit of income stacking is significant beyond the financial. When you have multiple streams, you stop feeling desperate about any single one. You can take more risks because no single failure destroys you. You can negotiate better because you're not dependent on anyone's approval for your financial survival. You have genuine economic freedom. Let's talk now about rest and recovery, which might seem counterintuitive in a book about wealth creation, but is actually central to the lazy rich philosophy. Burnout is expensive. It costs medical bills, lost productivity, bad decisions made from exhaustion, and missed opportunities because you're too depleted to recognize them. The wealthy prioritize sleep, exercise, and vacation because they understand that peak performance requires recovery. You can't operate at your highest level mentally when you're running on 4 hours of sleep. You can't make sharp strategic decisions when you're physically depleted. You can't see opportunities clearly when you're stressed and overwhelmed. There's solid science behind this. Sleep is when your brain consolidates memories, processes emotions, and generates creative insights. Exercise improves cognitive function, mood, and energy levels. Vacation provides perspective and prevents the tunnel vision that comes from constant immersion in your work. These aren't luxuries. They're essential inputs to high performance. Consider 2 scenarios. Person A works 80 hours per week, sleeps 5 hours nightly, never exercises, and hasn't taken a real vacation in 3 years. They're grinding hard, making sacrifices, doing whatever it takes. Person B works 40 hours per week, sleeps 8 hours nightly, exercises daily, and takes 4 weeks of vacation annually. On the surface, Person A looks more dedicated, but who actually performs better? Person B is operating from a foundation of energy, clarity, and mental sharpness. They make better decisions. They're more creative. They're more pleasant to work with, which improves relationships and opportunities. They're more resilient when challenges arise. Person A might be working twice as many hours, but they're probably only half as effective during those hours due to fatigue and stress. The math doesn't favor grind culture. 40 focused, high-energy hours beat 80 depleted, scattered hours every time. Quality matters more than quantity, but you can only achieve quality when you're properly rested. Let me share a real example. A hedge fund manager named Sarah ran an incredibly successful fund. Her returns consistently beat the market. Investors wanted to understand her secret. She told them it was simple. She worked 9 to 3, exercised daily, and never skipped vacation. They didn't believe her. The industry culture was all-nighters and 100-hour weeks. How could she outperform while working what they considered part-time hours? Sarah's explanation was straightforward. The market doesn't reward time spent watching it. It rewards good decisions. She could make better decisions in 6 focused hours than her competitors made in 16 exhausted hours. She did deep research in the morning when her mind was fresh. She made investment decisions when she was sharp. She avoided the late-night desperation trades that came from fatigue and fear. Her sustainable pace gave her an edge that grinding could never match. This is strategic recovery. It's not about being lazy in the sense of avoiding work. It's about optimizing for performance by respecting human biology and psychology. Your brain needs rest. Your body needs movement. Your nervous system needs downtime from stress. Ignoring these needs doesn't make you productive. It makes you progressively less capable over time until you break down completely. How are you treating rest in your own life? Are you wearing exhaustion as a badge of honor? Are you sacrificing sleep to squeeze in more work? Are you skipping exercise because you're too busy? Are you avoiding vacation because you can't afford the time away? If so, you're making a terrible trade. You're exchanging long-term performance for short-term activity. You're optimizing for the appearance of effort while sabotaging actual results. Here's what a strategic recovery practice looks like. You prioritize 8 hours of sleep like it's the most important meeting of your day. You schedule exercise as a non-negotiable appointment with yourself. You take 1 full day per week with 0 work, genuinely unplugged. You plan real vacations, at least 2 weeks per year, where you're completely disconnected. You take breaks during the workday to walk, stretch, or simply rest your mind. These practices don't reduce your wealth-building capacity. They enhance it. You show up sharper, more creative, more energized, more capable. The hours you work deliver better results. The decisions you make are sounder. The relationships you build are stronger. Everything improves when you're operating from a foundation of health and energy. Think about the last time you had a major breakthrough or creative insight. Chances are it didn't happen during hour 12 of a work marathon. It probably happened during a walk, a shower, a drive, or right after waking up. That's because insights require mental space. They emerge when you're relaxed, and your brain has room to make unexpected connections. If you're constantly in execution mode, constantly busy, you never create space for that magic to happen. This is why the lazy rich take vacations seriously. They're not indulging or being irresponsible. They're creating space for strategic thinking and renewal. They're stepping back from the daily grind to see the bigger picture. They're giving their minds permission to wander and discover new possibilities. Some of the most valuable ideas come during downtime, but only if you actually create that downtime. Let's transition now to mindset, because everything we've discussed requires a fundamental shift in how you think about work, wealth, and worthiness. The mechanics of leverage, systems, and strategy are important, but useless if your psychology sabotages implementation. The scarcity mindset is the default for most people. It sees the world as a zero-sum game where there's never enough. If someone else succeeds, there's less for you. If you stop working, income stops. If you rest, you fall behind. This mindset drives constant anxiety, overwork, and inability to trust or delegate. It's exhausting and it's limiting. The abundance mindset sees the world as full of opportunity. There's enough success for everyone. Wealth can be created, not just redistributed. Collaboration beats competition. Rest enables better performance. This mindset creates space for strategic thinking, relationship building, and sustainable growth. It's energizing and it's expansive. Which mindset do you operate from? Be honest. When someone else in your field succeeds, do you feel threatened or inspired? When you consider delegating, does fear or trust dominate? When you think about working less, does guilt or excitement come up? Your answers reveal your underlying programming. If you're stuck in scarcity thinking, you'll struggle with everything in this book. You'll resist delegation because you can't trust others. You'll avoid automation because you fear losing control. You'll refuse rest because you believe income requires constant effort. You'll say yes to everything because you're afraid of missing out. These patterns will keep you trapped regardless of the strategies you learn. Shifting to abundance thinking isn't about positive affirmations or wishful thinking. It's about recognizing reality more accurately. Wealth is not zero-sum. The economy grows. New value gets created constantly. People collaborate and everyone benefits. Markets expand. These are facts, not optimism. When you delegate well, both you and the person you hire benefit. They get income and skill development. You get time back for higher value work. Win-win. When you build systems, you create value that didn't exist before. When you rest properly, you perform better afterward. These aren't trade-offs, they're upgrades. Another psychological block is guilt around doing less. You've been conditioned your entire life that hard work is virtuous and leisure is shameful. Rest makes you feel lazy in the negative sense. Taking time off feels irresponsible. Saying no feels selfish. This programming runs deep, often instilled in childhood, reinforced by culture, and internalized as part of your identity. But whose values are these really? Who benefits when you feel guilty about resting? Certainly not you. The guilt serves the system that wants your labor, not your freedom. It keeps you compliant, overworked, and unable to build wealth that would free you from dependence on that system. Reframing this requires conscious effort. Every time you feel guilty about resting, remind yourself that rest enables better performance. Every time you feel selfish for saying no, remind yourself that saying yes to everyone else means saying no to yourself and your family. Every time you feel lazy for delegating, remind yourself that leverage is how wealth gets built. Over time, with consistent practice, the new framing becomes automatic. You start to feel good about working less because you can see it's working better. You start to feel proud of your boundaries because they're protecting what matters. You start to identify as someone who's strategic and efficient, not someone who's lazy in the shameful sense. There's also imposter syndrome to contend with. When you start earning more while working less, part of you feels like you don't deserve it. You haven't suffered enough. You haven't paid enough dues. This comes from the inherited belief that wealth must be earned through proportional suffering. But that's not how wealth works. Wealth comes from value creation and leverage, not from suffering. Think about people who inherit wealth. They didn't suffer for it, yet they benefit. Is that unfair? Maybe, but it's reality. Or think about someone who creates a viral product that earns millions with minimal ongoing effort. Did they not earn that? Of course they did, but through smart positioning and leverage, not through endless labor. You're allowed to earn more while working less. You're allowed to build systems that generate income without proportional effort. You're allowed to benefit from past work and smart decisions. This isn't cheating. This is intelligent wealth creation. Let go of the Protestant work ethic programming that says you must suffer to be worthy of prosperity. Let me tell you about Amit. He immigrated to the U.S. with nothing and built a successful landscaping business through brutal hard work. 80-hour weeks for years. He internalized the belief that suffering equals success. When his son suggested systemizing and scaling the business so Amit could work less, Amit reacted with anger. He saw it as lazy, as disrespectful to the work ethic that got them here. But Amit's body was breaking down. Years of physical labor were taking their toll. His son persisted, implementing systems gradually, hired a manager, created standard operating procedures, automated scheduling and invoicing. Slowly, Amit's required hours decreased while profit actually increased. The business ran better with proper systems than it had with Amit micromanaging everything. It took Amit 2 years to psychologically adjust. He struggled with guilt. He felt like he was cheating by earning while not laboring constantly. But eventually, as he saw the results, as he had time to enjoy his grandchildren, as his health improved, something shifted. He realized that smart beats hard, that sustainable beats heroic, that the hustle mentality, while it got him started, was no longer serving him. Amit's story is common among immigrants and people from working-class backgrounds. The values that helped you survive poverty can become obstacles to thriving in wealth. Recognizing this and consciously updating your beliefs is essential for the next level. What old beliefs are you carrying that no longer serve you? Where did those beliefs come from? Who benefits if you keep them? Who benefits if you release them? These are questions worth serious reflection. Your identity also needs to shift. You've probably identified as a worker, someone who earns through effort and hours. That identity needs to evolve into being an owner, someone who earns through assets and systems. Workers trade time for money. Owners build things that generate money whether they work or not. This identity shift is uncomfortable. Being a worker is familiar. You know how to do it. You get clear feedback. You feel virtuous. Being an owner is uncertain. You're building things that might not work. You're delegating to people who might fail. You're investing time up front for returns that might not come. It's riskier psychologically even if it's better financially. But until you make this identity shift, you'll self-sabotage. You'll unconsciously undermine your own systems because they don't fit who you think you are. You'll keep inserting yourself into operations because that feels like real work. You'll resist delegation because owners delegate and you still think of yourself as a worker. Here's a practice that helps. Write out your new wealth identity. Complete these sentences. I am someone who earns primarily through blank. I create value by blank. My typical work week consists of blank. Success for me looks like blank. I spend my time on blank. I delegate blank. My income comes from blank. Read these statements daily. Visualize yourself living this identity. Act as if it's already true. Over time, your actions will align with your stated identity. You'll make decisions that fit the owner identity rather than the worker identity. You'll say no to things workers say yes to. You'll say yes to things workers avoid. Your external results will shift to match your internal self-concept. Now let's bring all of this together into a practical business model. Everything we've discussed, leverage, systems, strategic laziness, delegation, automation, income stacking, all of it needs to manifest in how you actually structure your work and income. Whether you're employed, self-employed, or a business owner, these principles apply. The spectrum of business models runs from high touch to no touch. High touch means you're directly involved in every transaction. Think one-on-one coaching, custom consulting, freelance services. These can be lucrative per hour, but they don't scale because your time is the constraint. No touch means the product delivers value without your involvement. Think software, online courses, books, licensing. These scale infinitely because delivery doesn't require your time. Most people start high touch because it's easier and requires less upfront investment. You sell your time and expertise directly. But the wealthy goal is to migrate toward no-touch or low-touch models over time. You productize your services. You create intellectual property. You build systems that deliver value without your presence. Let's look at a progression. Stage 1 is trading time for money directly. You're a consultant, freelancer, coach, whatever. You work with clients individually and get paid per hour or project. This is fine for generating initial capital and refining your expertise, but it's not sustainable long-term because you hit a time ceiling. Stage 2 is leveraging yourself through a team. You hire people to deliver some of the work while you focus on sales, strategy, and oversight. Now you're earning based on your team's capacity, not just your own. This is better, but you're still heavily involved in operations and you're managing people, which has its own time cost. Stage 3 is productizing your service. Instead of custom work for each client, you create standardized packages, processes, and outcomes. You reduce the variability and customization, which allows you to systematize and scale. Think of a law firm that creates document templates instead of drafting everything from scratch, or a consultant who creates a structured 6-week program instead of open-ended engagements. Stage 4 is creating products that deliver value without your involvement. Online courses, books, software, templates, tools, whatever fits your expertise. You create it once, sell it many times, deliver it automatically. This is where you break the time-income link completely. Stage 5 is creating platforms or systems where others create the value and you capture a portion. Think marketplaces, affiliate networks, licensing deals. You've built infrastructure that enables others to do business and you take a percentage. This is the ultimate leverage because you're earning based on other people's work. You don't have to follow this exact progression, but understanding the spectrum helps you make strategic choices. Every business decision should be evaluated through the lens of, does this move me toward more leverage or less? Does this increase my time requirement or decrease it? Does this scale or does it keep me stuck in time for money exchange? Let me describe an example. A career coach starts by offering one-on-one coaching at $200 per hour. She's capped at about 20 billable hours per week, so maximum annual income around $200,000 before taxes. Stage 1. She hires 2 junior coaches to work with some clients under her supervision. She trains them, oversees quality, and handles complex cases herself. Now she's earning revenue on their time too. Income grows to $400,000, but her work hours actually increase because of management overhead. Stage 2. She creates a standardized 12-week coaching program with set modules and outcomes. Clients go through the same process instead of fully custom coaching. This allows her to deliver group coaching to 6 people at once rather than one-on-one. Same time investment, 6 times the revenue. She charges $3,000 per person per cohort. 4 cohorts per year with 6 people each is $72,000 in additional revenue. Stage 3. She records the coaching program and sells it as a self-paced online course for $500. No direct time required. If 100 people buy it per year, that's $50,000 in mostly passive income. Stage 4. She creates a certification program where she trains other coaches to use her method, and they pay her a licensing fee plus a percentage of their revenue. 10 certified coaches, each paying her $10,000 annually plus 10% of their revenue. If they each generate $100,000, she earns $10,000 flat plus $10,000 commission per coach, total $200,000. Stage 5. Each stage builds on the previous. Each stage increases leverage. By stage 5, the career coach's income has become substantially passive, scaling based on other people's work. She's moved from 100% active income to maybe 80% passive income. That's the transformation. What stage are you at right now? What would it take to move to the next stage? What's preventing you from making that transition? Usually the answer is either lack of knowledge about how to do it, lack of capital to invest in the transition, or psychological resistance to changing your business model. All 3 are solvable, but you have to acknowledge them first. The key is to design your ideal lifestyle first. The point is to be intentional. Most people drift into a business model based on what's familiar or what seems possible, then spend years trying to escape it. Be strategic from the start. Build the life you want, not the one that happens by default. Now we need to talk about lifestyle inflation, because this is where many high earners sabotage themselves. As income grows, expenses grow to match. The lawyer making $400,000 spends $400,000. The entrepreneur earning $1 million spends $1 million. They're high income but still living paycheck to paycheck, just with nicer stuff. This happens for psychological reasons. As you earn more, you feel entitled to upgrade your lifestyle. You want the visible markers of success. Nice car, big house, expensive clothes, fancy vacations. The problem is that these upgrades are consumption, not investment. They don't generate income. They just require more income to sustain. The wealthy do something different. As their income grows, their lifestyle improves modestly, but their savings and investment rate increases dramatically. Someone earning $50,000 might save 10%, $5,000 annually. When they earn $100,000, they don't double their spending. They might increase spending by $20,000 and save $30,000, now a 30% savings rate. At $200,000 income, they might spend $100,000 and save $100,000, a 50% savings rate. This requires discipline, but it's the only path to real wealth. The goal isn't to deprive yourself. It's to reach a point where your assets generate enough passive income that you're genuinely financially free. A lawyer earning $400,000 and spending $400,000 will never be free. They're trapped by their lifestyle costs. A lawyer earning $400,000, spending $150,000, And investing $250,000 will be financially free within 15 years. Let me share one final scenario to tie everything together. Two people, both 30 years old, both start with zero net worth. Person A embraces the lazy rich principles. Person B follows conventional hustle culture. Let's follow them over 20 years. Person A starts with a decent job earning $70,000. They live modestly, spending $40,000 annually, investing $30,000. They focus on learning high-leverage skills and positioning themselves strategically at work. By year 3, they're earning $90,000. Instead of upgrading lifestyle significantly, they invest $50,000 annually. By year 5, Person A has saved and invested about $200,000, which is generating returns. They start a side business using the strategies we discussed, automation and systems. The side business takes about 10 hours per week and generates an additional $40,000 in year 1. By year 8, the side business is generating $80,000 annually with minimal time investment because they've systemized and delegated. Their primary career income is now $120,000. They're investing nearly $100,000 per year between salary and business profit. Their portfolio is now around $600,000 and generating about $40,000 annually in returns. By year 12, Person A's portfolio has grown to $1.2 million. Investment returns are now $70,000 annually. The side business, now more passive, generates $60,000. Career income is $140,000. Total income $270,000. They're spending $60,000 on lifestyle and investing the rest. By year 15, Person A's portfolio is $2.5 million. They decide to leave their career because investment income alone is about $150,000 annually, more than enough to live on given their modest lifestyle. They're financially free at 45. Person A continues building businesses and projects they care about, not for survival, but for fulfillment. By year 20 at age 50, their net worth is $4 million and growing. They work about 15 hours per week on projects they love. They travel extensively. They're fully present for family. They're healthy because they've never burned out. Now Person B, same starting point, $70,000 income, age 30. Person B hustles hard. They work 60-hour weeks, take on side gigs, sacrifice sleep and health. They earn more initially through pure effort, $90,000 by year 3, but lifestyle inflates to match. New car, bigger apartment, more spending. They save $10,000 annually. By year 5, Person B is earning $110,000 through sheer grind. They're exhausted but proud of their work ethic. Savings are about $50,000 total because they kept upgrading lifestyle. By year 8, Person B has burned out. Health issues from stress and poor self-care force them to cut back hours. Income drops to $90,000. They have to tap savings for medical costs. Net worth is actually lower than at year 5. By year 12, Person B has recovered somewhat. They're earning $130,000 but still working long hours. Lifestyle costs are $90,000 annually. Savings have reached $150,000. They're tired, stressed, and feeling behind. By year 15, Person B realizes they have no path to retirement. Their net worth is about $300,000. At their current trajectory, they'll need to work until 70 or beyond. Health is declining. Relationships are strained from constant work stress. By year 20, age 50, Person B has about $500,000 saved, but still needs to work full-time, and will for another 15 to 20 years. They've sacrificed their health, relationships, and years of their life for a career that hasn't led to freedom. The difference isn't intelligence, luck, or starting point. It's strategy. Person A built leverage, lived below their means, invested aggressively, and worked sustainably. Person B worked hard but never built leverage, inflated lifestyle with income, and burned out. Same starting point, radically different outcomes. This isn't hypothetical. This pattern plays out millions of times. The outcome is largely determined by whether you understand and apply the principles in this book or whether you stay trapped in hustle culture. So where are you right now on this spectrum? Are you Person A or Person B? Are you building leverage or just grinding harder? Are you investing aggressively or consuming your income? Are you working sustainably or burning out? Be honest with yourself because the trajectory you're on leads somewhere, and you might not like that destination if you're not intentional about changing course. Let's talk about what transformation actually looks like as we bring this to a close. Transformation isn't about becoming a completely different person. It's about shedding the programming that isn't serving you and embracing principles that do. It's about recognizing that you've been operating from a flawed playbook and choosing to adopt a better one. The transformation from hustle culture to lazy rich principles happens in stages. First is awareness. You recognize that the harder equals better narrative is false. You see the trap you've been in. You understand that different rules apply to wealth building than what you were taught. This awareness is uncomfortable because it means acknowledging you've been doing it wrong, that years of effort have been misdirected. Second is experimentation. You start testing the principles. You delegate one task and discover the world doesn't end. You automate one process and free up hours. You say no to one obligation and nothing terrible happens. These small experiments build confidence that a different approach is viable. Third is integration. The new principles stop feeling foreign and start feeling natural. You default to thinking about leverage instead of effort. You habitually evaluate opportunities for ROI instead of just busyness. You protect your time and energy instinctively. The lazy rich framework becomes your operating system. Fourth is optimization. You're not just following the principles, you're mastering them. You're stacking strategies, compounding returns, building multiple systems that work together. You're teaching others. You're so far removed from your old mindset that it's hard to remember why you ever thought differently. The final stage is transcendence. You stop thinking about wealth building as something you do and start embodying it as who you are. Work becomes play. Money flows naturally. Time expands. You're operating at a level where effort and outcome feel effortless because you're so aligned with effective principles. This isn't mystical, it's just mastery. Most people never get past stage one. They gain awareness but never experiment because change is scary. Some reach stage 2 but give up when experiments don't immediately pay off. Few reach integration. Fewer still reach optimization. Transcendence is rare but available to anyone willing to commit to the path. Where do you want to be 5 years from now? Do you want to still be grinding, still busy, still trading time for money, still exhausted? Or do you want to be free, working on your terms, earning passively, fully present for what matters? The choice is yours, but the path is clear. You now know why the hustle trap exists and how it keeps you stuck. You understand leverage, systems, and strategic laziness. You know how to protect your time, build assets, delegate effectively, automate intelligently, and say no to everything that doesn't serve your highest goals. You know that rest is a strategy, not a weakness. You know that wealth comes from value creation and leverage, not from proportional effort. The question isn't whether these principles work. They do, as evidenced by every person who's achieved financial freedom. The question is whether you'll apply them. Whether you'll overcome the psychological resistance, the social pressure, the ingrained programming that tells you to keep hustling, keep grinding, keep suffering. The lazy rich aren't lucky. They're deliberate. They made a choice to operate differently. They accepted short-term discomfort, judgment from others, uncertainty about new approaches, all in service of long-term freedom. They valued their future self more than their current comfort. They were willing to be misunderstood by people trapped in hustle culture because they trusted the math. You can make the same choice, starting today, right now. You don't need permission. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need more knowledge, though learning continues forever. You need commitment and action. One decision, one delegation, one automation, one boundary, one investment. Then another. Then another. Compounded over months and years until the life you've designed is the life you're living. Wealth flows to those who build assets, delegate tasks, automate income, and protect their time. Wealth flows to the strategically lazy, the ruthlessly efficient, the sustainably focused. Not to the busiest, not to the most tired, not to those who sacrifice the most. The world will call you lazy. Let them. You'll call yourself free. You'll call yourself present. You'll call yourself wealthy. Not just in money, but in time, energy, and choice. You'll have built a life that doesn't require your constant effort to sustain. A life that generates abundance while you rest. A life designed around what matters to you instead of what's expected. This is the lazy rich life. Not a fantasy, not a shortcut, not luck. A systematic application of leverage, strategy, and intelligent design. It's available to you. The question is whether you want it badly enough to let go of the hustle identity that's been holding you back. Your next move isn't to work harder. It's to work smarter, then to work less. Then to build systems that work while you don't. Then to live the life you've been postponing while you grind. The transformation starts with a single decision to stop confusing motion with progress, to stop wearing exhaustion as a badge of honor, to stop accepting that wealth requires constant suffering. Make that decision now. Your future self, the one living free in 5 or 10 years, is counting on you. They're waiting for you to choose differently, to build differently, to live differently. Everything you need is in your hands. The principles are proven. The path is clear. The only thing missing is your commitment. Welcome to the lazy rich life. Now go build it, one strategic decision at a time,